Welcome back to another recap. Today we're diving into The Amateur, a 2025 action thriller where a grieving man goes rogue to avenge his wife's death. We open with Charlie Heller, CIA cryptographer and full-time overthinker. He's working on an old Cessna plane in his garage. He looks genuinely happy, which is already suspicious. Enter Sarah, his wife, brilliant, charming, and probably the only person keeping Charlie from turning into a sentient filing cabinet. She tells him she's heading out for her business trip to London. She invites him to come with her, but Charlie declines. He's got work. Also, he's not the spontaneous type, which is code for, I have emotionally regulated myself into a flavorless protein bar of a man. They share a sweet moment, the kind of warm, human connection that's usually followed by extreme separation and death. Then Sarah leaves. Later, Charlie reports for duty at the George Bush Center for Intelligence. He works in decryption and analysis, a department buried 5 floors underground. Inside the building, a field agent strolls up to Charlie with the relaxed menace of someone who's killed people in 5 languages and casually asks him to check some encrypted files on his computer after lunch. Back at his workstation, Charlie gets a ping on a secure line. The sender? Inquiline. Mysterious and anonymous. Probably uses DuckDuckGo. Inquiline has been his ghost in the machine for 5 years, drip-feeding him top-secret info and riddles like some kind of conspiracy Santa. Charlie still doesn't know who he is, but he likes puzzles. This time, Inquiline sends him something big and dangerous, the kind of files that get you quietly buried in a cornfield. He warns Charlie to be careful. Cut to lunch. Charlie's eating with the other nerds, people who speak fluent code and fear sunlight, when in walks the field agent Jackson O'Brien, codename the Bear. He nods at Charlie, and his friends are all curious how the hell Charlie knows the most dangerous man in the whole building. Charlie? Well, he once saved his life. Meanwhile, Charlie's still wrestling with the Inquiline files when his wife calls from London. She flirts. She tries to tease him into saying something dirty. But Charlie is currently neck-deep in a high-level conspiracy and doesn't have time for sexy banter. So they hung up. He is solely focused on the files. He can't crack them from his computer. So, naturally, he escalates to a restricted access room that requires level 5 clearance. Finally, inside this NSA wet dream of a chamber, he decrypts the files. And what they reveal is not great. Turns out his boss, Alex Moore, has been disguising politically motivated drone strikes as unaliving bombings, which is sort of like disguising murder as oops. Charlie stares at the screen, frozen. This is a career-ending, world-shaking, probably get you disappeared kind of stuff. He does what any responsible CIA employee would do. He goes home. That night, he tries calling Sarah, but she doesn't pick up, just her voicemail, chipper, unsuspecting, and very possibly the last time he'll ever hear her voice again. The next day, Charlie's back at work, trying to act normal, which is hard when your life is rapidly turning into a season finale. He opens the door to his office and finds none other than Alex Moore, his boss, just standing there. Charlie jumps internally, but keeps the government issue poker face. Moore asks if Charlie has seen the news. He hasn't. Moore tells him to come with him. That's never a good sign. They walk into the office of CIA Director Samantha O'Brien. Her face is grave. They tell him Sarah is dead, killed in a terrorist attack in London. Charlie doesn't believe them, because when your last conversation with someone was half a phone call and a missed opportunity, denial is the only thing keeping your organs from turning to vapor. They show him the footage, and it's real, horribly, viscerally real. Charlie, hollow-eyed, is driven home by a friend while the press vultures circle his lawn like they can smell grief. He's numb, disoriented. The world is now divided into before and after. Then he's back in a room with Moore and his number 2, Caleb Horowitz. Charlie wants answers, justice, and revenge. Closure, but make it actionable. Moore and Horowitz tell him to leave it to them. Go home, grieve, maybe take up yoga. Sarah comes back in a box. But Charlie doesn't sit still. He's a cryptographer. Grief becomes data. He works, and he finds footage, voices, and finally their names. The people who killed Sarah weren't just random boogeymen. They were contract killers. After a botched arms deal, they took Sarah and others hostage and executed her. Charlie IDs them one by one. Mishka Blazik, Belarusian mobster. Elish, ex-South African Special Forces and current full-time psychopath. Gretchen Frank, ex-Armenian intelligence, now freelance havoc dealer. And the big bad, Horst Schiller, a ghost with a trigger finger, the one who pulled the plug on Sarah. Charlie presents Morin Horowitz with his findings. He gives them the names. Their response? A casual, yeah, we already knew. Charlie's livid. He gave them the blueprint for vengeance. They shrugged. They say they're working on it, not just the killers, but the whole network. Like this is about geopolitics and not Charlie's dead wife in a zippered bag. Charlie doesn't care about networks. He wants heads on sticks. Moore tells him he's very valuable, and they hand him a pamphlet for therapy. So Charlie finds himself in a beige office, talking to a calm woman with soft lighting. A psychiatrist. He tells her about the missed call, about not going with Sarah, about the way guilt claws at him like a second skin. He gave the CIA the names. They did nothing, and now he's stuck. The therapist gives him the classic line. Justice won't bring her back. You're still here. You can make things better. Charlie nods, but the look in his eyes says he's going to make things better the John Wick way. Charlie, freshly marinated in grief and moral clarity, storms into Moore's office like a man with nothing to lose. He slams down the receipts, orders, logs, proof that Moore's little drone murder hobby has been dressed up as terrorism for years. Moore denies. Caleb Horowitz squints. But once the evidence piles up like bodies in Moore's kill count, the truth gets slippery. Moore finally shrugs, says he'd do it all again, patriotism. Horowitz catches on quickly. This isn't about justice. Charlie doesn't want to expose them. He wants blood, specifically Belarusian, South African, Armenian, and Schiller-flavored blood. Also, Charlie wants to do the killing himself. They laugh in his face. Nerd boy wants to go full John Wick. Cute. Threatening to leak the information, Charlie demands the resources and mission-specific training at the farm to personally hunt down the four assailants. You just want the fighting chance. Charlie has rigged a dead man switch. If he doesn't access his computer every 5 hours, all the classified files gets emailed to the 3 top investigative journalists. Suddenly, no one's laughing. Moore and Horowitz decide to play along until they can find and neutralize the threat. Send him to the farm, keep him busy, find the dead man's switch. Horowitz assigns Tech Girl Allie to monitor Charlie's every paranoid keystroke. Meanwhile, Charlie is scooped up by Colonel Robert Henderson, a man with the warmth of a steel-toe boot. He doesn't ask questions, just lays down the rules. Meanwhile, Horowitz's crew tears apart Charlie's workspace for the dead man's switch. They finally crack part of the puzzle. Charlie used a skimmer. 6 days ago, he sent the classified files to the office printer, skimmed the data using a magnetic strip, and rewrote the printer's software. But just because he skimmed the data doesn't mean he smuggled it out. The real problem? They can't find the strip. At Camp Peary, Charlie's aim is so bad it's practically performance art. Henderson wonders if they have checked his vision. He finally lands a shot, only because he's at point blank. His defense? I'll just get that close. Bold strategy, Cotton. Meanwhile, Horowitz and his squad sweep Charlie's house. Then on the cameras, they spot something weird. Charlie visited the same bar twice, once right after printing the classified files. Suspicious? Horowitz thinks so. He tells Allie to search it again, because apparently once wasn't enough. Henderson realizes Charlie might suck at shooting, but when it comes to bombs, he's actually excelling. Henderson then tries to beat the killer instinct into Charlie with a new identity and some psychological hazing. Charlie passes barely. Meanwhile, Horowitz's team discovers a CD Charlie hid in the bar's jukebox. But the decryption will take at least 5 hours. That night, Henderson storms into Charlie's room for a late-night heart-to-heart with a side of threat. He tells him he is no killer and that he won't be able to kill the people on his list. But Charlie tells him that he is here to learn. Henderson hands Charlie a gun and dares him to grow a spine. Charlie raises, points at his heart, then folds. Henderson's like, "Welp, I can't turn tofu into steak. While Allie decrypts the CD, Charlie's casually bugging Moore's office. He hears everything, including that his big bluff worked. But now it's game over. Moore and Horowitz find that there was no dead man's switch. Moore greenlights his termination. Henderson goes to do the job, except Charlie's already vanished from his room with a bundle of passports and a one-way ticket to chaos. Moore finds the bugging device clipped to the files Charlie left. He speaks directly to Charlie and tells him that bugging a CIA officer is considered treason. "You done messed up." Cut to Charlie landing in Paris by way of London. And Horowitz gives Moore the heads up because this game of cat and mouse just went international. Charlie goes full stalker mode in Paris. He rents a room with a clear view of the cafe Gretchen frequents. He finally spots her, hacks her phone, and starts tracking her movements. That night, things escalate. Armed with shaky hands and a lock-picking tutorial, Charlie breaks into Gretchen's apartment. Surprisingly competent for someone panicking like a squirrel on Red Bull, he snaps photos of her calendar, pockets her gun, and almost gets caught. She's faster than expected, so Charlie hides at the top of the stairs, gun pointed, but when it comes to pulling the trigger, he's all nerves and no bang. He bails. Digging deeper into Gretchen's schedule, Charlie discovers her upcoming allergy clinic appointment. Logical next step? Buy all the flowers from a flower stand. Then he waits outside the clinic. Gretchen enters the clinic and is placed in a hyperbaric chamber for tests. But all of a sudden, the computer shuts down. The doctor goes to check with his secretary and leaves Gretchen to continue with the exercise. And Charlie swoops in. He seals her in and fills the chamber with flower pollen. His goal? Force the truth about Schiller's location. The problem? She's too busy dying from anaphylaxis to be coherent. Conscience kicks in. Charlie opens the chamber, and naturally, they get into a brawl right in the middle of the clinic. Gretchen breaks free and escapes into the street, only to run directly into the path of a van. Boom. Final destination, Paris edition. Now alone, and slightly more unhinged, Charlie pockets her phone and hops on a bus to Marseille. Director Samantha O'Brien wants answers about Gretchen's death. She turns to Moore, who immediately deflects, blaming her people for botching the London job so badly they got her killed. Samantha isn't buying it. Meanwhile, Charlie is getting obliterated at a bar. That's where Henderson finds him. Cornered but still slippery, Charlie bolts to a second bar. Henderson shows up there. Charlie locked himself in the bathroom, sets up an explosive, strolls back out for a chat with Henderson, and casually detonates the place mid-conversation. That gives him the time to escape. He calls in a favor from Inquiline, who smuggles him to Istanbul via cargo plane. Inquiline tells him to wait at a cafe. There, a woman hands him a book and a handoff so obvious it practically screams spy thriller. He follows her outside. She already knows who he is, tells him to fake shop for half an hour, then meet her in a parking lot. In the car, the woman drops the mask. She's Inquiline, a Russian widow of a murdered ex-KGB agent. She inherited his spy gig like it's some twisted family business, and she has been Charlie's source for some time now. At her place, they trace Blazik to a luxury hotel in Madrid. Back in London, Samantha and Moore are having lunch, though lunch is generous. It's more of a low-level diplomatic cage match. She wants him to be accountable. He smiles like a smug weasel and assures her she has his full support. When she leaves, Samantha's deputy spills the tea. Moore has sicked Henderson on Charlie. Realizing her team might be full of holes, she decides to send her own operative to watch Charlie's back. Charlie, meanwhile, tells Inquiline to keep an eye out for Henderson. He knows he'll show up, but Charlie himself is heading to Madrid to deal with Blazik. In Madrid, he discovers Blazik has a nightly routine of swimming alone in the rooftop pool. Charlie and Inquiline talk it through while she surveils through the hotel's cameras. Henderson arrives at the hotel lobby, but Charlie refuses to bail. He's married to this plan, for better or worse. Charlie confronts Blazik mid-swim. He's rigged scuba gear to manipulate the air pressure between the pool's glass sheets, basically turning the rooftop pool into a very posh death trap. He wants to know where Schiller is. Blazik pleads ignorance. Charlie advises him to start swimming. Fast. When Blazek doesn't cooperate, Charlie shatters the glass. Blazek goes from smug poolside villain to human cannonball, plummeting from the rooftop in a stylish but fatal exit. Inquiline warns Charlie that Henderson is closing in fast. She directs him to the basement for an exit, but Henderson's right on his heels, storming through the underbelly of the hotel. Just as Henderson is about to grab him, Samantha's operative bursts in and chaos ensues. They fight it out in the laundry room. Henderson gets shot, but still manages to kill the operative. Charlie slips out. Again. Elsewhere, Horowitz starts putting the pieces together. He realizes Charlie's been chatting with someone through his earpiece. Charlie and Inquiline, reunited and briefly not being hunted, share one of their classic emotionally repressed late-night chats. They discuss their mutual dead spouses, the silence that follows, and the joys of being a grieving assassin. Heartwarming stuff. Meanwhile, Horowitz and his crew trace Inquiline's digital breadcrumbs. They find Charlie's entire message history. They uncover Inquiline's identity and that she's been operating under her dead husband's name. Horowitz, ever helpful, tips off the local Russian KGB station chief. An FSB strike team is dispatched to Istanbul to kill them both. At dawn, Charlie and Inquiline are woken by chickens. Outside, the KGB goons are rolling in. Inquiline guides Charlie through secret passageways. They pop up behind the strike team, hop in her car, and immediately get chased by everything short of a submarine. Drones, speedboats, bullets. Then it gets grim. Inquiline is hit and dies in the car. Charlie moves her body over to the passenger seat, climbs behind the wheel, and drives to the parking lot where they first met. He kisses her corpse goodbye and leaves her there. Back at the same cafe where the whole thing started, Charlie gets a text. It's from Elish, his next target. Turns out Inquiline had already laid the groundwork, catfishing Elish into a deal for some missiles. Charlie, now wearing her identity like a new coat, tells Elish to meet in Romania for the exchange. The location, a remote shack in Constanza. Classic ambience. Charlie takes a budget bus to Romania. He waits alone in the shed until Elish and his entourage show up. They find a phone. Charlie's voice comes through it like a Bond villain audition tape. He tells Elish to drop the money and start counting. Elish wants to inspect the missiles first. Charlie tells him to go ahead and open the lids. Elish does. Surprise. He's just armed a bomb. The moment he lets go of the lid, he'll go kaboom. Charlie appears and demands to know where Schiller is. Elish spills. Schiller is operating from a ship on the Baltic Sea, just off the coast of Primorsk. Charlie takes Elish's phone, which conveniently contains the codes for contacting Schiller, and leaves him frozen in place. Charlie walks away as the shack explodes. Then, Charlie shows up in Primorsk. He spends the day sipping espresso in a cafe and snapping photos of Schiller's operation. And then the bear walks in the cafe. He sits down across from Charlie and says he's here to save his life. Charlie, predictably, says no thanks. He's not done. The vendetta still has some mileage left. Next day, Charlie's asking around the docks like a guy who's never seen a spy movie. He finds out Schiller's boat is named Nadezhda, Hope, in Russian, which is ironic because it's about to be the setting for some very hopeless things. Of course, asking too many questions in a port town ends in exactly one way, with Charlie getting brained from behind and waking up on a boat in international waters. Classic. Now face to face with Schiller, Sarah's killer, Charlie looks more composed than he should. Schiller, for his part, is amused. No backup, no mission, just one grieving husband who burned the world down to get here. Schiller tells him Sarah took someone else's place, which was brave, but she had to die to make a statement. It was nothing personal, just logistics. Charlie has had about enough. Schiller tells him he's no different. He killed 3 people just to get to him. How does that feel, he asks. Charlie tells him he will let him know after he kills him. Schiller, ever the philosopher, slides him a loaded gun. Wants to see if Charlie's got it in him to pull the trigger up close. No pollen, no bombs, no distance, just man and murder. Charlie takes the gun, points it at Schiller, makes him get on his knees, exactly like Sarah was. He holds a moment, then tells Schiller that this was what he came for. to make him feel what she felt. Then he drops the gun. Schiller doesn't get a chance to breathe. Something's wrong with the boat. Charlie smiles. He's hacked the navigation system. Nadezhda has unknowingly sailed into the Gulf of Finland. The ship's coordinates have already been sent to Interpol and the Finnish police. As Schiller stares out the window, blue lights cut through the mist. The boat is surrounded. Schiller is arrested. Charlie just watches it happen. Back home, the fallout begins. Moore and Horowitz are arrested for their unsanctioned Black Ops circus. Samantha, standing stiffly behind a podium at a press conference, declares that the agency has purged the bad apples. She tries to spin the whole affair into a lesson. Even in the shadows, rules exist, and breaking them has consequences. Finally, Charlie returns to his real quiet place, the old plane he's been restoring this whole time. It is ready. He climbs into the cockpit and takes it up into the sky. The end. And that's The Amateur, a revenge-fueled spy thriller with a solid cast and a globe-trotting setup. But let's be real, despite some intense moments and decent action, it ends up feeling pretty bland and formulaic. Nothing we haven't seen before. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more killer recaps. Until next time.